You know those daily horoscopes you see everywhere? Ever stop and wonder, how do they actually come up with this stuff? What's the secret sauce that makes them so, well, so compelling? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to break down the anatomy of a really popular astrological forecast to see exactly how it works. It's a fascinating three-part structure, and you're going to see it all.
Okay, so right off the bat, it hits you with this powerful universal hook. This one promises something pretty special: peace and wealth. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? It's this big, broad, super positive statement. And it's designed to grab you instantly. Doesn't matter who you are or what kind of day you're having, that line is for you. And that right there is the first crucial piece of the puzzle, setting what I call the cosmic stage. It's all about laying down this universal promise. The forecast creates this grand theme for the day, something that applies to absolutely everyone. And then, and this is key, it backs up that big, optimistic promise with what sounds like very specific events happening up in the stars. So, to make this all sound super credible, they use some very specific astrological language. In this case, it says the moon is entering its Vrish Rashi, or its exalted sign, in Taurus. Now, that might sound complicated, but all it really means is that a planet is in the spot where it's at its absolute most powerful and beneficial. It gives a real authoritative-sounding reason for why today is going to be so great. But they don't just stop there. They add another layer of cosmic reasoning. The source explains that, hey, it's a Tuesday, which is linked to the fire element, or Agni. And the moon, well, it's in Taurus, which is an earth sign, or Prithvi. So what you get is this really unique blend of energies for the day, a mix of action and stability. And this is where it gets really interesting. It's how they translate these cosmic elements into actual human qualities. So the fire element, that gives us Shakti, or power. And the earth element, that brings Daya, or patience. All of a sudden, you've got this core message for the day that applies to everyone. Today is all about balancing these two forces, your power and your patience. Okay, but a big universal message is great and all, but it can only take you so far, right? To make this advice really hit home, it has to feel personal. And that brings us to the second major part of this formula, what I like to call the personalization engine. And what's that engine? Well, of course, it's the 12 Zodiac signs. This is the clever mechanism they use to take that big, broad theme, that whole balancing power and patience thing, and slice it up into tiny, specific pieces of advice that feel like they were written just for you. So let's look at an example. For Taurus, remember, that's where the moon is exalted today. The forecast is super positive. It says, today, you will feel very attractive. People will be impressed by your words. See? It's all about social success, tapping right into that feeling of confidence and charm. Now for Cancer, the vibe completely shifts to something more tangible. It says, for you, today is a day for profit. Help will come from old friends. So here, the focus is on money. But notice how they weave in relationships too? That mention of old friends makes the advice feel practical and emotionally meaningful. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And this is smart. To keep things believable, they throw in some warnings. For Libra, the advice is much more cautious. Be a little careful today. Drive carefully and do not criticize anyone. It's a total contrast, right? And it works, because it makes the good forecasts seem even better, and the warnings feel a lot more urgent. So once you look at all of them, you start to see a really clear pattern. Across all 12 signs, the advice always hits on the big areas of our lives: career, money, relationships, and a few warnings sprinkled in. By covering all these bases, the forecast does something really clever. It taps into what psychologists call the Barnum effect. That's our tendency to hear a pretty vague general statement and think, wow, that's totally me. I mean, with all this advice, something in there is bound to stick, right? All right, so you've got the big universal theme for the day, and you've got your own personalized advice. But what are you supposed to do with it? Well, that brings us to the final and maybe the most powerful part of this whole formula, giving you a clear, actionable solution. The forecast offers something called a Tuesday Wazifa, which basically translates to a special Tuesday spiritual remedy. This is the call to action. It's handed to you as a tool, something you can use to deal with the specific challenges mentioned, things like enemies or debt. It's designed to make you feel empowered, like you have some control. And the remedy itself? It's laid out as a really simple, structured ritual. You've got a short prayer, then a central phrase you repeat a specific number of times, and then you close with that same prayer again. The simplicity here is absolutely key. It's so accessible, so easy for anyone to do, which means people are way more likely to actually give it a try.
But it's not just a random ritual. The meaning behind it is crucial. That core phrase you recite, Ya Kawiyu, is an invocation for strength. It means, oh, the most powerful. And see how that connects everything? It links the remedy right back to the day's big theme of Shakti, or power. It's basically promising you a way to take control over any of the challenges your personal forecast might have mentioned. So when you step back and look at the whole thing, you can see it's this brilliantly crafted communication strategy. It's a formula that's perfectly designed to hook you, make it personal, and then empower you, all in the span of just a few minutes.
So, let's recap the whole blueprint, shall we? First, you have the universal promise, something big and positive for everyone that's backed by cosmic events. Then, you get the personal relevance, using the 12 signs to make the advice feel like it's just for you. After that comes the actionable solution, a simple task that gives you a sense of control. And tying it all together is the authoritative language, all those special terms that build credibility and trust.
And, this structure isn't just for astrology. You can see pieces of this formula everywhere, in self-help books, in productivity hacks, even in the way some daily news briefings are structured. Which kind of leaves us with a much bigger question to think about, doesn't it? In a world that feels so uncertain all the time, what is it about a clear, structured promise of daily guidance that we humans find so incredibly compelling?